Picture yourself in Salem Village, 1692, a woman alone in a frozen, unforgiving world. A neighbor's grudge over a stray cow, a whispered insult, brands you a witch. A teenage girl screams, swearing your specter claws at her soul in the dead of night. No evidence, no defense, just a village drowned in paranoia, baying for your blood. The gallows on a windswept hill loom, ready to choke your life and curse your name forever. This is the Salem Witch Trials, a true crime horror where fear turned neighbors into executioners and innocence was a death sentence. Could you survive this nightmare? Comment below, how would you face this terror? Salem Village, in the bitter winter of 1692, was a tinderbox of Puritan zeal and buried grudges. Faith bound this hamlet like iron, but beneath its godly surface, feuds festered over land, status, and salvation. Families like the Putnams and Porters clashed over property lines, their disputes poisoning the air. Every misfortune, a sick child, a failed crop, was Satan's work in a community obsessed with the devil's presence. In this claustrophobic world, the spark came in Reverend Samuel Parris's dim, drafty home. His daughter Betty, 9, and niece Abigail Williams, 11, erupted in blood-curdling screams, their bodies twisting in grotesque, unnatural fits. Villagers gathered, whispering, as Dr. William Griggs, his face ashen, found no cause. His verdict, witchcraft, fell like a hammer, shattering Salem's fragile peace. February brought the first accusations. Pressed by elders like Thomas Putnam, whose influence loomed large, Betty and Abigail named 3 outcasts: Tituba, the Parris family's enslaved Caribbean woman, whose tales of spirits and omens captivated the girls; Sarah Good, a beggar whose poverty and sharp tongue made her a pariah; and Sarah Osborne, a widow ostracized for remarrying against Puritan norms. These women, living on society's edges, were perfect scapegoats for a village desperate for answers. In March, the meeting house became a crucible of fear. Magistrates Jonathan Corwin and John Hathorne, their faces carved with righteous fervor, interrogated the accused. Tituba, likely beaten or threatened, broke under pressure. She confessed to signing the devil's book, spinning tales of witches conspiring against Salem. Her words, wrung from terror, were a match to kindling. Neighbors turned on neighbors, old slights becoming death warrants. By April, the accusations spiraled, ensnaring the unlikely. Martha Corey, a churchgoer who dared question the girl's fits, was dragged to jail. Rebecca Nurse, a grandmother whose piety was her shield, followed. Even George Burroughs, a former minister whose strength and charisma marked him as different, was accused of devilry. The court, led by Corwin and Hathorne, embraced spectral evidence. The girls' claims of seeing the accused spirits tormenting them in dreams. Abigail, Betty, and others, Ann Putnam Jr., Mercy Lewis, Mary Warren, performed their fits in court, shrieking, collapsing, their theatrics gripping the crowd. Were they possessed, manipulated, or reveling in power? Their words held the weight of life and death, and Salem trembled. June brought the gallows to Gallows Hill, a stark silhouette against the summer sky. Bridget Bishop, a tavern keeper with a fiery spirit and a scandalous past, was the first to hang on June 10th. Her body swung in the humid air, a grim warning. July claimed 5 more. Sarah Good, defiant, cursed the crowd as the noose tightened. Sarah Osborne, frail, died in jail before her execution. Rebecca Nurse, whose death stunned the devout. Susanna Martin, a widow whose sharp wit couldn't save her. And Elizabeth Howe, a mother torn from her children. August saw 5 more hangings. September 8, their bodies left to rot as a message to the godly. The evidence was a sham. Spectral visions, unverifiable and born of hysteria. Confessions, coerced through threats or torture. And testimony laced with venom. A dead cow, a sick child, a sour glance, all proof of witchcraft. What fueled this slaughter? Greed was a silent hand. Families like the Putnams saw rivals' land ripe for seizure. Vendettas flourished. Osborne's remarriage to an indentured servant scandalized the elite. Good's begging and muttered curses made her a target. The Puritans' dread of Satan turned every mishap into a curse. Social fractures ran deep. Salem Village was split between wealthier families tied to Salem town and poorer ones in its rural heart. The girls, perhaps pawns of adults like Thomas Putnam or caught in their own web, wielded terrifying power. Ann Putnam Jr., just 12, accused dozens, her mother egging her on. Was it fear, vengeance, or something darker? Hysteria fed on itself, blinding reason. The human toll was a slow, suffocating horror. Families were shattered. Children like Dorcas Good, only 4, were chained in dank, rat-infested jails beside their mothers, accused of witchcraft for no crime but their bloodline. Imagine a child's terror, shivering in the dark, hearing her mother's sobs echo off stone walls, branded a devil's spawn. Giles Corey, an elderly farmer, refused to plead, knowing a guilty verdict would strip his sons of their inheritance. He was pressed to death under heavy stones, each breath a labored gasp, his tongue protruding as he cursed Sheriff George Corwin with his dying breath. The accused faced a cruel dilemma: confess, naming others to save themselves, or deny and face the noose. Rebecca Nurse, clinging to her faith, prayed as the rope tightened, her 8 children watching in helpless anguish from the crowd. The jails, cold and fetid, became graves. Sarah Osborne's body succumbed to disease, her spirit broken long before the gallows could claim her. The psychological terror was relentless. Every creak of a door could mean arrest, every neighbor a potential betrayer. Women like Mary Eastie, a mother of 7, penned desperate pleas to the court, begging not for her life, but for fairness, knowing her words would fall on deaf ears. The village became a prison of suspicion, where a glance could spark an accusation, and sleep brought nightmares of spectral tormentors. Families of the accused were shunned, their farms neglected, their children taunted as witches' kin, their lives unraveling in the wake of betrayal. The community's trust, once the bedrock of Puritan life, dissolved into a miasma of fear, leaving Salem a hollow shell of itself. Even those who escaped the noose carried scars. Survivors like Tituba, released but forever marked, wandered a world that saw them as tainted. By summer's end, unease stirred. Prominent voices questioned the madness. Reverend Increase Mather, Harvard's president, delivered a searing sermon in October, condemning spectral evidence. It were better that 10 suspected witches should escape than one innocent person be condemned. His words cracked the hysteria. Governor William Phips, returning from England to a colony in chaos, halted the trials. In January 1693, the Superior Court of Judicature, under William Stoughton, barred spectral evidence. The remaining accused were freed or pardoned, but the toll was horrific. 19 hanged, 1 crushed, 5 dead in jail, countless lives ruined. Before we continue, please show your support by subscribing, liking, and sharing this video if you found it interesting. The deeper truths are chilling. Women, over 3/4 of the accused, were targeted for defying Puritan norms. Bridget Bishop's independence, Tituba's foreignness, Martha Corey's skepticism marked them as threats. Misogyny wove through the trials, exposing a society that feared women who stepped out of line. The community lay in tatters, trust dissolved, families broken. The Putnam family, once powerful, faced ostracism as their role in fanning the flames became clear. Descendants of the accused carried a silent shame, their ancestors' names tainted for generations. Salem's scars ran deep, a wound on New England's soul. The trial's legacy is a warning etched in blood. They show how fear can twist justice, how power unchecked breeds horror, how the vulnerable, women, outsiders, the poor, become scapegoats. They echo in modern witch hunts, where falsehoods and fear still destroy lives. Salem teaches us to question evidence, to guard against hysteria, to protect the powerless. It's a mirror to our darkest impulses, urging us to confront the shadows within.